Hello and welcome to Branding Bits. My name is James Soames and I'm a brand consultant in Taiwan. I work for a brand consultancy called Subkarma, and our mission here has been the same for the last 20 years. Namely, to try and help Taiwan and Taiwanese businesses brand themselves the best they can. If at the end of this video you want to see more of our episodes on YouTube, remember to go to our Subkarma channel and subscribe for regular engaging content. We also have our new podcast channel, so if you prefer to listen rather than watch, check the links in the description below to find out where we are. Right, enough of this self-promotion and back to today's topic. The last episode I recorded was before our local outbreak, and understandably, things have changed quite a bit in Taiwan since then. As a result of this, unease has settled in amongst the population. Businesses are being constrained, and politicians are feeling the heat. And many have started decrying the mistakes that have been made recently and which have allegedly led to the situation we find ourselves in today. So, one question that begs an answer today is, has all the good work that's been done over the last year and a half been in vain? And after riding high in the minds of the world, is the Taiwan brand about to be finally undone by the virus? Do you play with Barbie dolls? No, seriously, do you? The chances are that if you do play with dolls, you are likely to be able to empathize with others better than those who don't. You are also probably a very lonely person living in your parents' basement with no friends, or you are simply French. And that is just a joke. Mattel, the creators of the Barbie doll, have recently launched a campaign in May aimed at showing the emotional benefits of playing with dolls. This campaign followed research carried out by the University of Cardiff that showed how children between the ages of 4 and 8 who played with dolls were able to develop social information processing skills significantly better than similar children who played on tablets instead. The study found that Barbie dolls activated the posterior superior temporal sulcus in the brain. This is the part of the brain that allows for empathy, and of course, I know that, I'm sure you did too. And this is relevant today, in a world that is suffering from fear and anxiety since 2020, in a world that needs to feel cared for and understood. In fact, this campaign is one of Barbie's recent efforts to promote the well-being of children to those parents who worry about the emotional impact of extended lockdowns and confinement. And the brand has certainly hit a nerve. Barbie's sales have risen 87% in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the same quarter last year. So brands that show and promote empathy are more likely to succeed today. But can the same be said about countries? I would suggest that it is also true of nations, and there are clearly some countries during the pandemic who have adopted a more altruistic and empathetic demeanor towards countries in need than others. Taiwan showed a real desire to help others in need very early on during the spread of the virus in 2020. Remember how Taiwan offered to supply the world with masks and equipment when even its local population was under strict mask rationing? This gave birth to the whole Taiwan Can Help campaign. Have you noticed how short-lived this campaign was though? 1 year on and the slogan has all but disappeared. And here is my reason why. What seems to have happened, in my view, is that Taiwan actually showed more sympathy than empathy. And although both words sound very familiar, their meanings are very different indeed. Let me explain. Dr. Breen Brown, an American researcher who has spent the past 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy, explains the difference this way. Imagine stumbling across someone who has fallen into a deep hole and cannot get out. A sympathetic person stands above the hole and shouts positive encouragement to the one who is stuck. That sympathetic person does not acknowledge the pain of the other. Now, the empathetic person will climb into the hole to sit beside the one stuck at the bottom. Empathy is about feeling and recognizing the problem and suffering without trying to make it sound better than it is. I'm sure you see where I'm heading with this now, right? Which one do you think Taiwan showed when beating their drums to celebrate their ability to help and their amazing record of no local cases for most of 2020? Was it empathy? The Taiwan Can Help slogan although designed with good and noble intentions, sounds self-centered and impersonal. Taiwan is not in the hole with the other virus-ridden countries. It is standing on the higher ground reaching down. Taiwan has no cases and no suffering. Life was no different to before. The slogan actually mentions nothing about us being in it together. It was all about Taiwan only and its capabilities. But if you fast forward to May 2021, all this talk doesn't matter anymore, because we too have seen the virus creep into this lovely island and turn our cities into ghost towns. We too are looking at growing numbers of infections. We too are starting to feel the suffering that most other countries around the world have been feeling for a while now. And this makes the Taiwan brand fallible and imperfect. It also means that we are now at the bottom of the hole with everybody else. We have joined the club and are able to empathize and be empathized with by others. Now could be an opportune moment to go back to the drawing board and rethink our slogan. How about something like, Taiwan and you, let's overcome together? Surely it tugs at our heartstrings a little stronger now. Thank you in advance, by the way, for forwarding this slogan to the National Development Council or to Taiwan News. Very grateful. So, the Taiwan brand has a chance to show more humanity, more empathy. But is the brand likely to see its brand strength drop as the virus sweeps across the country and people start to realize that Taiwan may have been a little complacent over the last few months? I will attempt to answer this point by donning a teacher's hat. Let's go to the drawing board as we try to evaluate Taiwan's brand strength. You are about to learn something that at best will help you impress your friends and at worst will stop you playing with Barbie dolls at least for a moment as you try to make sense of this. Are you ready? Now please pay attention. A brand's stature and strength is measured using 4 distinct categories: knowledge, esteem, differentiation, and relevance. Knowledge refers to how much customers truly know about the brand. Esteem looks at how much the customer likes the brand. Differentiation looks at how different customers think the brand is compared to others. And finally, relevance. Relevance takes those differences and rates how useful and relevant they are to the customer. Are you with me so far? Wonderful. So let's measure Taiwan's brand strength using these 4 categories. First, knowledge. Considering Taiwan as a brand, do people today have more knowledge about us than they had a couple of years ago? I would argue that up until recently, Taiwan has been lauded globally as a nation who has successfully contained the situation. As a result, more people than ever are aware of this island. I would go even further and say that now that we are experiencing local contaminations, and now that Taiwanese manufacturers and other businesses are reducing capacity or closing down altogether, an even higher number of people are becoming aware of how important Taiwan is to the global economy and its supply of microchips, semiconductors, CNC machines, functional textile, and smart technologies. Second, esteem. How much do people like Taiwan? And do they like the Taiwan brand more now than before? Again, I would venture to say that people generally root for the underdog. And in this respect, most people are very fond of Taiwan. In fact, it was ranked #1 destination of choice for expats in 2021. Now that we are temporarily in level 3 partial lockdown, I suspect that our vulnerability will keep our brand esteem ratings high. But this could change if Taiwan curbs its manufacturing output and prices go up. We're halfway through now, so please stay with me on this one. The third measure relates to differentiation. How unique is Taiwan? Now, I'm sure you will all agree with me when I say that Taiwan has always been unique geopolitically, and also by virtue of being a true democracy in East Asia. These differences seem set to continue. But are there any other factors that affect the ratings recently? With the pandemic breaching our shores, we are no longer the unique safe haven that we were a few weeks ago. We have lost that aura. And our lack of planning with regards to vaccinations has put a dent in our pristine 2020 brand image. Time will tell, however, whether we can use the current situation to showcase our unique resourcefulness. And I have a feeling that we will. As the Chinese saying says, When the river runs dry, the ants thrive. Finally, relevance. How relevant is a bedridden Taiwan compared to that of years past? It's a big topic indeed, but the Taiwan brand is still just as relevant as ever. If only because a sick Taiwan is still a democracy. A sick Taiwan is still a beacon of freedom. A sick Taiwan is still a hive of new ideas and technology. And a sick Taiwan still has a powerful heartbeat. Right, then, let's take a look at our graph and evaluate the brand strength of the Taiwan brand. Based on what we've just discussed, Taiwan's brand strength overall has not been affected by the recent events. But what has changed, however, is where the brand has grown in strength, namely knowledge, and where it has weakened, which would be differentiation. This means, my dear friends, that Taiwan's image is as radiant as ever to the outside world. More people than ever know about us and have feelings of affinity with our situation and struggles. But we shouldn't overlook the fact that our brand has lost some shine recently due to lack of forward planning and execution. Our preparedness, which has been our pride over the last year, has shown its first cracks, and we now seem to be scrambling like everybody else, at least for the moment. And finally, to our third and final point. Will the onset of our current crisis in Taiwan have an effect on brand loyalty? In other words, when Taiwan is experiencing trouble and challenges, do our partners continue to stand firm in their relationship with us? Do they remain loyal to us? Or do they distance themselves instead? Loyalty to Taiwan's brand could certainly be strengthened, and there are a few cracks that need to be papered over. We are still waiting for action from our close partners regarding vaccines, for example. Time will tell whether promises of help from some of our close friends will materialize, but this should not worry a resilient Taiwan. In fact, I would argue that the Taiwan brand is most at threat from its own people than the outside world. And this internal lack of loyalty could be the brand's biggest weakness. Are Taiwanese people only happy with their government, the CECC, and each other when times are good? Are we only united when everything is smooth? And does it just take a little bump in the road to turn our backs on our leaders and each other? Recent polls suggest that President Tsai and her government are way below the satisfaction levels of last year. And all the talk now is on how unprepared the country has been regarding vaccines, as well as being put at fault for relaxing quarantine rules for airline pilots coming into the country. We are all quick to point the finger at one another, like a collapsing house of cards. And yes, there have undeniably been mistakes. We are defined by our reaction to the crisis and our ability to unite and overcome these challenges. Our national brand cannot crumble internally while enjoying all the plaudits in the global world. Remember, you are all part of the Taiwan brand, and as such, we all have a responsibility to manage it, to develop it, and guard it jealously. It is our job, each and every one of us, to continue to show empathy with our neighbors and our leaders. To be thankful for how long we have managed to stave off the virus and to embrace the new challenges coming our way with the same spirit that has built this Taiwan brand over all these years. To sum it up, Taiwan's brand is valuable, and the pandemic has had little effect on the country's brand image. What it has done, however, is highlight the need for the Taiwanese population to start believing in their brand and to remain loyal through tough times. The Bible says, when anything is exposed by light, it becomes visible. And the closer you get to the light, the clearer these imperfections become. Yes, we will see the mistakes we have made more clearly. Yes, we will feel more exposed to the world. But what a privilege it is for the Taiwan brand to have been under the spotlight for the last 2 years, regardless of the reason. I, for one, am glad that Taiwan has not hidden in the darkness. And I'm sure you wouldn't want that either, whether you still play with Barbie dolls or not. Until next time, stay safe. Thank you for watching, and God bless.